Imagine waking up in a world where the sun is a weapon, the river is your bathtub, refrigerator, and open sewer, and your boss is technically a god who can have you beaten for saying the wrong thing about his flood schedule. Welcome to ancient Egypt, not the Golden Mask Museum version. The version you'd actually have to survive. Before we jump in, hit like and subscribe only if you enjoy these deep dives, and drop a comment with what time it is where you are, and whether you think you'd last more than 24 hours in this place. Dim the lights, maybe grab some water. You're going to need it, because tonight, you're not touring ancient Egypt, you're living in it. You wake up before sunrise, not because you're a disciplined morning person, but because your house is made of mud and the walls basically amplify every sound ever created. Roosters, donkeys, neighbors. One guy who somehow coughs like an entire brass band. You roll off your sleeping mat, stuffed with straw that has definitely stabbed you more times than any enemy soldier ever will, and immediately step into dust. Your entire home is a couple of cramped rooms, whitewashed mud brick, no windows with glass, just square holes in the wall that double as air vents and invitation letters to every fly in the Nile Valley. You slept on the flat roof last night because inside turns into a clay oven after noon. The desert doesn't cool off so much as it switches from roasting to low bake. Before the sun even clears the horizon, you're already sweating. By mid-morning in Upper Egypt, summer temps can easily climb past 35 to 40 degrees Celsius, 95 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. No fans, no ice. No, let's just pop into the fridge and stand there for a minute. Just you, your linen tunic, and a sun that behaves like it's angry you exist. Speaking of linen, that's your entire wardrobe, spun from flax grown along the Nile, woven into light, breathable fabric. Men in kilts or short tunics, women in simple sheath dresses. If you're rich, you get pleats and jewelry. If you're not, you get whitish. And maybe one spare outfit if you're lucky, shoes. Theoretically, yes. There are sandals made of leather or woven reeds. Practically no, your family can't afford for you to wear them out stomping through fields. You walk barefoot almost everywhere. The ground is either sharp, burning, or both. And today, like most days, time is ticking. Because in Egypt, you don't live by a clock, you live by the river. The Nile isn't just nearby. It is the reason your civilization exists. Every year it floods, Akhet, the inundation, then recedes, leaving behind rich black silt that makes your fields actually grow things instead of just producing crispy disappointment. But the river is also your sink, shower, laundry machine, trash chute, and probably the reason your stomach hates you. You head down to the bank with everyone else in your village. Children, neighbors, livestock, that one goose that seems personally committed to ruining your life. This is where you wash, not with scented shower gel, but with sand. Literally. Rubbing gritty Nile sand on your skin is your exfoliation routine. It does remove dirt. It also removes dignity. There is no soap for regular people. Perfumed oils exist, but those are for temples and wealthy households. You just try not to smell worse than the river, which is full of fish, reeds, rotting plant matter, dead things you don't ask about, and the occasional human activity that should never be upstream of your face. You wade in carefully, because the Nile has crocodiles and hippos. Hippos kill people. Crocodiles also kill people. The river is basically a beautiful, slow-moving hazard. You scrub yourself, splash off, and try not to think about what percentage of the water around you is technically other people. Then it's laundry time. Soak clothes, stomp them, slap them against rocks, and hope they don't float downstream. On the way back, you balance a heavy pottery jar full of water on your head. The jar is fragile, your spine is not thrilled, and if you trip on a rock, that's your day ruined. Again. The Nile gives life, sure. It also hands out parasites, waterborne diseases, and probably your next bout of I can't leave the bathroom corner. But this is all you've got. Back home, it's time for breakfast, which in ancient Egyptian terms translates to, how much bread can I physically eat before my jaw falls off? Bread and beer are your diet's main characters. Everything else is a guest cameo. Your family eats emmer wheat or barley bread baked in clay ovens. Some loaves are flat, others bulky. All of them contain a crunchy bonus, sand. Flour is ground with stone querns, and little bits of grit end up in the dough. Over time, this turns your teeth into smooth little tombstones. Archaeologists have found jaws worn down nearly flat from a lifetime of chewing stone-seasoned bread. You wash it down with beer, not crisp, bubbly, modern beer. A thick, cloudy, porridge-like drink that's more liquid bread than anything else. Kids drink it, elders drink it. It's full of calories and, crucially, safer than raw Nile water, because the brewing process usually kills off at least some of the microscopic horrors. Onions and garlic are common, not as garnish, but as actual food. Fish if you live near the river and someone got lucky. Meat? If you're poor, that's a holiday situation. Chickens aren't even a thing for most of Egyptian history. You're looking at duck, goose, or small game if you see meat at all. Breakfast is eaten squatting or on a low stool. No table, no plates for everyone. Just shared dishes, breadcrumbs everywhere, flies making bold life choices all over your face. Still, for all the sand and insects, this is a pretty decent meal by ancient world standards. Egyptians actually have one of the more stable food supplies thanks to the Nile's predictable cycles. When the flood is good, you eat. When it's not, you pray. Because now it's time to work. Forget 9 to 5. This is sunrise until your body says no. If you're a farmer, and statistically you are, you live by the Nile's 3 seasons. Akhet, flood, Pare, growing, and Shemu, harvest. During flood season, your fields are underwater, so you repair canals, dikes, and maybe get conscripted for state projects, digging, hauling stone, building temples, or dragging statues the size of houses across the desert. When the waters recede, it's go time. You and your oxen pull a wooden plough through the wet soil. No tractors, no steel blades, just wood, sweat and hope. Seeds are tossed by hand. You weed, water using shadows, those counterweighted poles with a bucket on one end, and try to stay ahead of insects, birds, and the occasional goat who believes your job is to grow its snacks. If you're unlucky enough to be doing government labour, things get even more intense. Building royal tombs, temples, or city walls means hauling limestone blocks, mixing mud brick, and climbing scaffolding with no safety harness, just peer pressure and a fear of heights. Contrary to the whipped slave Hollywood image, many pyramid and temple workers were actually paid labourers or conscripted farmers during flood season. They got rations of bread, beer, and sometimes meat. They also got arthritis at 25 and a solid chance of being crushed by something heavy. Overseers keep you moving. They carry sticks. That's not symbolic. That's HR. Fall behind on your grain quota, or fail to pay taxes in kind, and the state can seize your tools, animals, or freedom. Forced labour, beatings, and being shipped off to work in remote quarries are all very real outcomes. There is no I'm prioritizing my mental health today. There is, if I don't show up, my family doesn't eat, and I might also lose a hand. Hovering over all of this is the ultimate supervisor, the pharaoh. This isn't a head of state in a modern sense. The pharaoh is viewed as a living god, the embodiment of Horus, the child of Ra, the maintainer of Ma'at, cosmic order and justice. If the Nile floods well, it's because the pharaoh is in harmony with the gods. If it doesn't, something is wrong with the balance of the universe, and you are absolutely going to hear about it in temple sermons. You'll never meet him. Maybe you'll catch a distant glimpse during a festival procession. Golden bark, incense, fan bearers, that sort of thing. But his image is everywhere. Colossal statues, wall carvings, his name in cartouches on temple reliefs. Criticizing him, dangerous idea. Questioning taxes, also dangerous. Egypt has a legal system, but it's not a democracy. The Vizier and local officials handle courts. Confessions can be obtained with investigative beatings, a lovely euphemism that means torture, especially in high-profile cases like tomb robbery. Punishments scale with the crime. Fines and forced labor for minor theft. Beatings or mutilation, like cutting off noses or ears, for more serious offenses. Death, sometimes by burning, drowning, or impalement, for treason or grave robbing. Also, everyone believes that what the courts miss, the gods will catch later. So you're being judged twice, once by officials, once by eternity. Fun. Meanwhile, the environment is trying to kill you in smaller, more annoying ways. Sand is basically your roommate. It's in your bed, your jars, your hair, your eyelashes, and somehow inside closed containers that have not moved in weeks. Every wind gust is a free facial you did not ask for. Your house, made of sun-dried mud brick, cracks and sheds dust. In a sandstorm, the sky goes orange-brown, visibility drops, and everyone just wraps their heads in cloth and waits for the gods to stop exfoliating them. Then there are the pests, flies in the thousands, gnats, mosquitoes, and locusts that can wipe whole fields if they're having a particularly chaotic year. You share your house with mice, maybe a cat if you're lucky, and possibly a snake or two living in the walls. On one hand, cats are sacred. On the other, they're also your pest control employees. Hurting a cat can get you in real trouble, legally and spiritually. Bastet, the cat goddess, is not someone you want annoyed at you. You're constantly scratched, bitten, and burned. You drink questionable water. You eat food that sat out in the heat. So of course, you get sick. Time for healthcare, Egyptian edition. To be fair, Egyptian medicine is surprisingly advanced for its time. They have medical papyri with treatments for broken bones, wounds, stomach issues, and gynecological problems. They understand basic anatomy from mummification. They know how to set fractures and stitch cuts. Honey is used on wounds because it helps prevent infection. Moldy bread sometimes gets applied to injuries, which accidentally start dipping into early antibiotic territory. But none of this comes without magic. Every treatment is part pharmacy, part exorcism. You show up with a nasty cut. The healer cleans it, maybe applies honey or a herbal poultice. Then they recite a spell calling on gods like Sekhmet or Thoth to drive out the evil. Birth control, also a thing. Papyrus texts describe vaginal pessaries made from crocodile dung, honey, natron, salty minerals, acacia gum, and sour milk. Ingredients that, bizarrely, may actually have mild spermicidal effects. Ancient Egypt, mixing surprisingly correct biochemistry with fire. Please insert what where. Stomach problems might be blamed on bad food, but they also might be blamed on angry spirits or offended deities, So you get both herbal remedies and protective amulets. Surgery exists, but there's no anesthesia beyond bite this and try not to move. Dentistry is grim. Your teeth are already shredded from that sandy bread. Abscesses are drained. Sometimes teeth are pulled with metal tools. Infection can still kill you. If you survive childhood, you might live into your 40s or 50s, but the average life expectancy sits much lower because so many children die young from disease, accidents, or malnutrition in bad years. Survival is an achievement, not a given. What about women? Here's a twist. By ancient world standards, Egyptian women actually have a decent amount of legal power. They can own property, sign contracts, appear in court, run businesses, and inherit or bequeath wealth in their own names. They can marry, divorce, and keep control of what they brought into the marriage. Many are entitled to a share of marital property if things go south. Compared to Greek or Roman women centuries later, that's huge. But before you start packing for a girl boss time travel vacation, there's reality. Daily life is brutal. Women grind grain on heavy quernstones, an activity that wrecks knees, backs, and hands. They haul water, bake bread, brew beer, weave cloth, care for children, maintain the home, raise small animals, and often help in the fields. Rest is something that happens when you're sick enough that you literally can't stand. Childbirth is dangerous. Midwives help, but there's no antiseptic, no pain relief, no C-sections, just prayers, amulets, and hope. Many women die in childbirth. Many children don't make it past their first few years. Wealthy women do better. They may oversee estates, supervise servants, commission tombs, and participate in temple cults as priestesses. A few, like Hatshepsut later on, even become pharaoh. But for most women, legal rights exist alongside non-stop physical labor. You're not oppressed by law as much as by reality, survival. After a day of all this, fieldwork, grinding, hauling, child wrangling, you finally get a sliver of evening. And maybe, just maybe, some joy. Because Egyptians genuinely like enjoying life when they can. If you're lucky enough to live near a town, you might hear musicians playing lutes, harps, or flutes at a local gathering. People clap, dance, sing. Board games like Senate are popular. You move little pieces along a track, trying to safely navigate them to the end while leaving your opponent's pieces in cosmic traffic. Festivals are the big highlight. Religious celebrations often involve processions, feasts, drinking, sometimes fairly chaotic levels of partying. The god statue is carried out of the temple in a gilded boat. People cheer, wave incense, make offerings, and share food. Religion isn't a side hobby here. It's the framework for everything. There are gods for the sun, Ra, the sky, Nut, the Nile, Hapi, writing and wisdom, Thoth, fertility and rebirth, Osiris, cats, Bastet, crocodiles, Sobek, and a whole pantheon more. Each town has its favorite local deity. Temples own land, employ workers, and act like giant spiritual corporations. You interact with this system constantly. You make household offerings, hang protective charms over doorways, whisper quick prayers before eating, traveling, or giving birth. Every action has a spiritual echo, and looming over all of it is the one test you cannot cram for. What happens when you die? In Egypt, death is not an off switch. It's a full-time project. The ultimate goal is to reach the field of reeds, a perfected version of Egypt where you farm without back pain, eat without hunger, and sail on calm waters forever. But to get there, your soul has to survive the underworld bureaucracy. After you die, your heart, believed to be the seat of your mind and character, is weighed against the feather of Maat. symbol of truth and order. If your heart is light, you pass. If it's heavy with wrongdoing, the monster Amit, part crocodile, part lion, part hippo, eats it, and you suffer what the Egyptians fear more than torture or fire: total non-existence. Rich people prepare for this like it's an interdimensional luxury vacation. They commission elaborate tombs, fill them with food, clothing, jewelry, statues, and little figurines called shabtis, meant to do their chores in the afterlife. They pay scribes to inscribe spells from funerary texts, what we call the Book of the Dead, onto coffins or papyrus scrolls to help navigate the dangers of the underworld. Your body is embalmed, organs removed, dried with natron, wrapped in linen, then placed in one or more coffins, stacked like extremely morbid nesting dolls. If you're poor, your burial is simpler: a shallow grave in the desert or a small pit, a simple coffin at best, maybe a few pots with food or beer. But even then, family tries to secure some version of proper rites, because a badly handled burial can doom your soul. And just when you think you can finally rest, in come the tomb robbers. Gold, fine linen, imported oils, cosmetics, furniture. Tombs are basically ancient high-end department stores with no security cameras. Grave robbery is common enough that there are entire papyri filled with confessions, trials, and brutal punishments for people who got caught breaking into tombs and stripping them bare. So even in death, there's no guarantee your stuff or your body stays where it's supposed to. Through all this, someone is writing things down. Not you, probably. Literacy is rare, maybe 1 to 5% of the population. The scribes hold that power. They spend years learning hieroglyphs and the more cursive scripts used for day-to-day documents. Over 700 signs, no vowels written, multiple directions to read them in, and special symbols called determinatives that clarify meaning. It's less like learning an alphabet and more like unlocking a graphical operating system. Scribes record everything: tax lists, grain accounts, legal cases, letters, hymns, medical recipes, spells. They don't haul stone, they don't plough fields. Their workload is mental, not physical, which in this world is a cushy deal. Your entire life, your debts, your disputes, even your confession if you get arrested, might end up in ink on papyrus, tucked away in some archive that archaeologists will freak out over 3,000 years later. Writing is magic here, literally. Names carved into stone help preserve a person's soul. Erasing someone's name is like trying to erase them from existence. So when a later pharaoh wants to cancel a rival, they don't just talk trash, they chisel that person off the walls. So, after all that, would you survive? Let's tally your odds. You grow up in a world where the climate is hot, dry, and unforgiving. Your work is physical, constant, and often dangerous. Your food is filling but repetitive and slowly sandblasts your teeth. Disease, infection, and parasites are everyday threats. The legal system can literally mark or maim you for serious crimes. The gods monitor not just what you do, but who you are, long after you're gone. You get very little privacy, almost no mobility between social classes, and zero say in who runs the country. Your best case scenario is you stay healthy enough to work, avoid angering anyone important, have a few good harvests, raise children who live and die with your heart light enough to pass the cosmic scale. From a modern perspective, with antibiotics, running water, climate control, human rights, and the ability to DoorDash tacos at 11 p.m., you would absolutely crumble. By day 2, you'd be sunburned, dehydrated, covered in bites, and being politely asked by an overseer why you're so emotionally attached to your spine. And yet, ancient Egyptians didn't walk around thinking, wow, this is miserable. They worked hard, yes, but they also laughed, sang, played games, told stories, loved their families, and built monuments so precise that modern engineers are still impressed. Their belief in continuity, of the Nile cycles, of Ma'at, of the afterlife, gave them a sense of purpose strong enough to endure 3 millennia of history. Surviving ancient Egypt wasn't about hacking the system. It was about accepting that you were one small part of a giant divine machine and doing your best not to get crushed by it, literally or spiritually. So no, you probably wouldn't last long. But they did, for thousands of years. And that's why, even now, we're still talking about them. While the sun that roasted their backs keeps rising over the same river they once called the gift of the gods. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking through an entire lifetime in one video. Let me know in the comments. Which part of ancient Egyptian life do you think would break you first? The heat, the work, the food, or the afterlife anxiety? And as always, sleep well. Just be glad your bed isn't full of sand and crocodile-adjacent water.